We're airborne off the Sebring Airport here in Central Florida. I'm with Jason Wilkinson, Chief Flight Instructor at Sebring Aviation, and an RV-12iS, Van's airplane, of course. And you know, Jason, the hardened insurance market continues, and it's a market that's targeting older pilots, and that means pilots flying higher performance, complex airplanes are being forced out of those airplanes, and for many that means sunsetting the aviation career. But there's light at the end of the tunnel because we've got light sport, and one of them is this RV-12iS. It's a airplane that's on the line at Sebring. We'll go back down to the ground and talk to Jason about what we call a step-down transition into the light sport world. Then we'll come back up here to the cockpit and talk a little bit more about this airplane.
Larry, you do bring up a good point in that the insurance market is really targeting older pilots, and so it's really precluding a lot of guys who are getting up in age from flying those complex high-performance aircraft anymore. They're twins, they're bonanzas, even they're turbine aircraft, and so guys are either just walking away from flying altogether, or they're coming to us and they're getting into Rotax-powered aircrafts in the LSA market, like this RV-12iS, which is a perfect example of an aircraft that they can come into and continue to fly for many more years. This aircraft is powered by the Rotax 912iS, and so it is a fuel-injected 100 horsepower engine. So it is basically a FADEC type controlled airplane. So the engine is very easy to manage. You don't worry about the mixture. It is a fixed pitch prop, so all of that is taken care of for you. So it is got the avionics equipment of those much more complex, more expensive aircraft that guys have been used to flying. So here at Lockwood, we do have experience with a lot of different LSA aircraft. There are many more LSA models than the Vans RV. Like I said, we have the Techno P92. We deal with a lot of others, but we chose the RV-12 as one of our main training airplanes. We have a long relationship with Vans here at Lockwood. We do a lot of work together with Vans, and this plane was designed for the LSA market, and we looked at it and chose it because it is a great training and flying airplane. It has the control balance of all RV aircraft. So very light on the controls, very balanced, a lot of control harmony. It's got, of course, got the Rotax engine, got a great power to weight ratio for a light sport aircraft. It's a fun airplane to fly. Great visibility with the bubble canopy. And so just a quick walk around of the RV-12. It's got the cast-ring nose wheel, as all nose wheel RVs have. And so it's got a beefy strut for guys transitioning back into light sport or learning how to fly, and so that is the upgraded landing gear. Coming around, you know, doing our pre-flight, just got our avionics cooling vents and doing our typical just look at everything, make sure that nothing is out of sorts. Coming over, the wings remove on the RV-12, and so one of the things we do check is the spar pin. There is a warning light in the cockpit to let you know if the spar pin is not connected. That is something we do want to check. We look at the gear. We have removed the wheel pants because this is a training airplane, and so we look at the condition of the tire, condition of the gear, make sure that we don't have any brake fluid leaking. We have a stall vane. We also have an angle of attack indication system in the Garmin, so you've got many different ways that will show you that you're stalling. We may see that in some air video. Coming around, we always check to make sure that the wing is properly attached. We check inside, we check the light, then we also give it the tactile check to make sure that everything is good. Coming back around, we have full-length flaperons in an RV-12. This is one of the things in the RV that gives it such great control effectiveness. And so we make sure we have free and correct movement. Coming back again to our stabilator and our anti-servo tab, looking for free and correct movement, and then also checking our connections. Looking underneath, checking our connections, making sure we are free of any foreign objects or debris. Got the rudder and our rudder trim tab. Everything is looking good. This is we can check our fuel gauge. It is actually inside the rear cargo area, and I can actually visually see how much fuel we have and see that it's full. Of course, I also was the one to fill it up, so I know it's full. Then checking our engine. Access point into the engine here. We've checked the oil earlier, and we did the proverbial Rotax burp because the oil level was on the bottom of the flat. We can check our coolant overflow reservoir. If there's any coolant in the reservoir, obviously the system is full, but we're looking for about 1 inch of coolant level in the overflow reservoir. Don't fill it up. If you fill it up, it overheats when the engine warms up, and you blow out coolant out of the overflow. Looking at the prop and the prop spinner, and a unique thing about the RV-12 is the pitot tube comes out the center of the prop spinner. Be careful, that's a great way to grab yourself and make a nice cut on your arm. But looking at each prop blade, we already know that the ignition is off, the mags are not hot, even though this is an IS engine. And check each prop blade. That is a quick walk around of the RV-12. I deem she's ready to fly.
The RV-12, compared to other ones, it's very comfortable to fly. It has the handling characteristics of other RV models, and so it's a very fun aircraft to fly. Although it goes back to what I said before, it's a two-finger aircraft. It is not a grip, you know, with the white knuckles on the control stick. It is very light on the controls. You feel the interior. We're not even brushing shoulders. Unlike an old Cessna or something like that, it's a nice roomy cockpit with great visibility, big bubble canopy. We're actually on the forward side of the wings, so you can look straight down, as opposed to a lot of other low-wing aircraft, to where you're actually just looking at the wing. And 2,500 feet on a day in Florida where it's getting a little warm. She's a nice, solid feel. We have the autopilot gauge right now, but we can fly this heading right here. We'd end up in Miami, and we have a nice, smooth flight the whole way. So, you know, this autopilot, the GFC 500, it's an autopilot you find across a wide variety of airplanes. There's some pretty good envelope protection in it, including level mode, other protection that's kind of working in the background while it's not engaged. Sure. Well, I mean, we can actually demonstrate, you know, a couple of those things. So I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the autopilot. I'm going to bring the power back just so that we're in maneuvering speed. And I'm going to do a steep turn, just a standard. We've already done our clearing turns. I'm just going to do a standard steep turn to the right, looking right, clearing right, turning right. As I turn right, I'm going to get to 45 degrees of bank, and the stability protection is going to turn yellow and say, no, you want to go back to 30 degrees of bank. And so the autopilot servo is actually kicked in and nudged the control stick back to a 30-degree bank angle and said, you didn't want to do a 45 degree, you want to do a 30 degree. So that's one of the protection items that the plane has. Secondly, you mentioned the level button. So if I'm flying around as a pilot and I get disoriented and I'm going into a steep turn, I can just reach and hit the level button, and the autopilot engages and goes back to a wings level attitude automatically. Yep. You know, with the Rotax 912, fuel-injected 912iS, pretty economical. Yeah, if you look at the screen right here, we're doing 92 knots, 96 true, and 2.5 gallons per hour. So to show you the situational awareness this airplane can give you, you've actually loaded the RNAV approach in the runway 1 in Sebring, and it's got Garmin synthetic vision. We've got the familiar highway in the sky, providing us guidance right down to the runway. For somebody coming out of a technically advanced airplane, should be a pretty easy transition, no? Oh, absolutely. This looks exactly like what they're used to. So Jason, landing a light sport isn't quite like landing a heavier airplane. Let's head back to the pattern, and you can kind of talk me through a couple of landings. What do you think? Sounds like a plan. Let's go. Down to 65 knots or so? Yeah. So we got 65 knots. Half flaps are down. Flaps, you can go full flaps. Okay, full flaps coming in. So I'll keep that angle of attack indicator from beeping at you too much. You notice the pitch down movement of this airplane. Yep. You have to bring the nose up a little bit, get back to 65. She has the tendency to want to go fast. Okay. If you are fast in an RV, you will float. Okay. So about 65 knots is perfect, 60 to 65. Just aim like any other aircraft. I do like to go a little bit faster than book just because I can see over the cowl a little easier. You're looking great. You're on that nice glide slope. We have the visual approach set up in the Garmin, and you're right on glide. Just hold that speed, keep her coming down in the ground effect, and just ease her on.
Turning left crosswind for 132, Sebring.
You're seeing a lot of pilots transition into this RV-12 and LSAs in general, you get a lot of experience in the light sport market. What are some of the traps that an older pilot stepping out of a high-performance airplane? Maybe it's a Malibu, maybe it's a 210, maybe it's a turbine. What happens when you get into a small airplane like this high-tech RV-12?
Sure. Well, a couple of things. Number one, you mentioned high-tech. So a lot of guys, even though they're flying a more heavier aircraft, maybe a six-pack, maybe old steam gauges with a less capable GPS, they step into something that's like this, Garmin setup with a G3X, GTN 750 Autopilot. So that could be a trap. Got some avionics training, need to catch up. Other things is just simple physics. This airplane's much lighter. Its control forces are much lighter. This is a plane that you fly with a couple of fingers. It's not a plane that you fly ham-fisted. As you can see, just doing this, just with a couple of fingers, we get a lot of roll rate, a lot of maneuvering in the aircraft. Lastly, one thing I see a lot of is there's just not the inertia. You pull the power back on this airplane, she's losing speed. So when you fly into your pattern, when you come into land, you come into flare, you don't want to pull the power back too early. That can be a common. Pull the power back, start to get the nose up. You really bleed that speed off early, and so then you can pancake it in and harm yourself there. So that's some things to look out for. Got to fly to 4 T-34s. So we'll take the heading and just turn this way.
Yeah, I got that traffic. Yeah, this airplane is equipped with a two-screen Garmin G3X Touch, Garmin audio panel, GTN 650 IFR navigator, GFC 500 Autopilot. Now, like any light sport, you can't fly IMC with it, but you can train for IFR, right?
You absolutely can. Yeah, you can train this aircraft. You can use all the way through CFI. It is a TAA, so we can use it for commercial for commercial training. And then, of course, yes, you can train for it for IFR. However, flight into IMC is prohibited. It is placarded because it is a light sport aircraft. So it would be a lot of hood time, but you've got all the avionics. We can fly a fully coupled approach in the setup that we have here.
Like I said earlier, I'm chief pilot here, so I'm CFI, CFII, MEI, ground instructor, CFI gyroplane, like I said, anything with a Rotax engine. I'm also type rated in the Challenger 350 and the Phenom 300, so I've got a wide experience of aircraft that I fly. And so we highly recommend when someone's coming into a light sport aircraft that they come down and get transition training. These aircraft do fly differently than what you're used to, and so you need to come get training specific to the aircraft, to the style that you're going to fly. Secondly, gross weight 1,320 pounds per regulation. And so there really isn't much inertia to a light sport aircraft. So guys who especially fly the jets and heavy aircraft, you come over the threshold, you pull to idle and you wait to land, you'll stall this plane and it will pancake and you'll do damage to the gear. So you've got to fly these planes kind of ultralight style onto the runway with a little bit of power.
The thing that you have to get used to with it is on taxiing, you're basically using differential braking a bit to keep your direction and make turns and stuff, because you don't have a lot of rudder authority. But once you've got the power in and you're on takeoff, you get that rudder authority and climbs out very well, because you hit the flap switch and it'll lower the flaps very quickly. So you've got to just do it kind of in little steps to make sure that you get the right amount of flaps that you need. And on retracting the flaps, it'll pull it all up on you very quickly, so you've got to kind of go up and bring it back to neutral to keep it from pulling all the flaps up on you.
But that's something you get in transition training. You learn your plane, you learn the power off characteristics, you learn the control harmony, and you do that with us here doing LSA transition. In addition, Lockwood, we don't just do LSA, we don't just do private, commercial, CFI training, IFR training in these aircraft. We also work for Phil Lockwood. Phil Lockwood invented the AirCam, and so we do AirCam training. We have two different segments of AirCam training. Number one is AirCam transition training in the tailwheel AirCam. So if you're buying an AirCam or you just want to be trained in an AirCam, you don't have to be buying an AirCam. We'll give you a course, 5 hours of training, where you go out and we fly around in the tailwheel AirCam, and we do the full training of the landings, of the wheel landings, the 3-point landings, go up and do all the air work. Also, we have Chiquita, 51 Sierra Charlie, that is our seaplane. We have a LOTA from the FAA that allows us to do multi-engine sea training if you hold a multi-engine land rating. It's a 2-day course. You come down, 2 days plus a check ride. You come down and we hit all these lakes in Central Florida. As we've said before, Florida weather is good year-round. A little hot in the summer, but right now it is the middle of February and it feels great. We're all standing in shorts and it's 75 degrees. Great time to go fly seaplanes and hit all the lakes of Central Florida, look at the alligators, and get a multi-engine sea rating while you're at it.
And you can look for a full report on LSA step-downs in the April 2025 issue of Aviation Consumer magazine. For Aviation Consumer, I'm Larry Anglisano, and thanks a lot to Jason Wilkinson for the warm welcome here at Sebring and for giving us a good demo of this airplane.